Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from My Favorite Things. This includes the Pretty Poinsettias, the Mod Rectangles, the Rectangular Watercolor Wash, and then this Bitty Thanks and Gratitude. We're going to have such an interesting story time today. So anywho, this stencil comes with the positive and the negative. So I'm going to be actually creating a frame today. And I like to put repositionable adhesive on the back of my stencils. Tombow on a multi-glue dries repositionable. They also have some sprays and things that you can use, and this is just what works for me. I do make sure, like you saw me tap it on my hand, I make sure that everything is dry before I adhere it to my cardstock. And then I'm going to be doing just some Distress ink blending in the background, kind of like a gradient. I had this whole other game plan, and ultimately, it's not what I ended up going with, but don't worry, because I have another game plan for that card background now. But anywho, before we get too far into the video, let's talk about this sale. So My Favorite Things is having a huge sale. Today is the last day for it. My intention was for this video to go up yesterday, but the universe was against me. So this sale ties into our story time. So anyway, they're offering 35% off everything except the new category. And then they're also having this massive retirement sale at 50% off. And the retirement sale has quite a few things in it that, I mean, they're not even old, guys. They're new. Like this Pretty Poinsettias that I'm using today is part of that retirement sale, and you can get it 50% off. I bought this in the fall when it came out, and I never even used it. That is how we ended up with this video today, because I was like, I never even got to use it. So I have to use it. And obviously, it's past Christmas. The poinsettias, you know, I guess I could still have done them red or red and white, but I decided to change them up and do them in some bright colors with some no-line coloring. If you're a person who came for that tutorial, like, the coloring will be coming shortly, but coloring takes a long time, so you have to suffer through the rest of this before you get to the coloring. So now, like I said, I did it in kind of like a gradient. I have some regrets about this because ultimately what I was looking for in my head was like a pretty little floral frame that had some like floral pieces in each of the corners. There's that background that I created. I created it the same exact way, but I'm not going to use it. I'm going to save it for another video. That's what I wanted. Because of the style, I'm also leaving my mask in place for this portion where I'm spattering on the Gold Perfect Pearls. I wanted this pretty little floral frame with like a fun teal background. And I think what I ended up with was like something out of SpongeBob. Like, it's probably not that dramatic. Like, it's not that serious. But once I saw it, I just couldn't unsee it. And because of those, like the color combination that I chose and the shape of the stencil, it just feels very underwater to me. And that's not at all what I was going, it's not at all what I was going for. But sometimes that just happens. So I also smushed down a couple of the ink pads. I did Uncharted Mariner, Peacock Feathers, and Mermaid Lagoon, and did some spatters with that as well. So that's pretty much like I did the Perfect Pearls, I did just clear water, and then I did these couple colors of Distress inks, and then that is pretty much all the backgrounds. So I waited for this to dry and then removed my mask stencil here. You can see my little frame. And then I went a step further. Oh, I also, because I use that Tombow on a multi-glue, sometimes it leaves a little bit of adhesive behind, and so I'm using an adhesive eraser to just clean that up. I also went ahead and die cut this using that Mod Rectangles. I really like these. I think they're a super fun shape. Speaking of, in that retirement sale, they have circles, like the stacking circles on sale for 50% off, which is, you know, anytime that you can get a large pack of dies on sale, that's a win. So anyway, when I was removing this piece, you can see it started to tear. And so instead of continuing to pull off the tape in that direction, I switched directions so that way that it would stay attached to my paper. Here's how I'm going to fix it. So you can see it's ripped up there. That's from the tape. I'm going to put in one little small drop of glue, and then I'm going to use my finger to smooth it back into place. And then nobody will even know that it tore. Nobody's going to know. They're not going to know. How are they going to know? So here, I'm only stamping my flowers. I just want to be clear here. I did not buy the dies for this set. I only bought the stamp. But I'm only stamping my flowers so that I can get the placement for the leaves. The leaves I am going to color directly on this piece. For the flowers, I am going to stamp them and then fussy cut them out. So if you have the dies, that would not be necessary. You could just die cut them. But each time I'm making the arrangement exactly the same in each corner. So I'm just flipping my piece every time I'm stamping it. So each one of these is getting stamped twice. Once in one corner, once in the other corner. So maybe I tried to fit too much in. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe it's too much flowers. Is there such thing as too much flowers? I don't know, possibly. But then once I have those in place, I can then line up my leaves and there's like a little berry in here. I left out the mistletoe and the pine cones because they didn't really fit my theme, but those are also included in the set. And so I put those down and then stamp them. I'm using this no line coloring ink because obviously from the title, I am going to be doing some no line coloring. I'm using the one from Honeybee, but there's tons on the market. Like, you can use whatever works for you. And then the same thing with the flowers. I'm going to stamp them in the same ink. These ones I did stamp twice. Just because I knew it was going to take me a while to get to them. Like, I still had to color that whole base. And sometimes the no line ink, if it's just stamped once, can lighten up so much that it's challenging to see. And I already have a hard enough time no line coloring because, you know, my bold black outline is my security blanket, that I don't need any more help in that arena. So now let's get into the coloring. I'm showing you Copic markers. Why am I showing you Copic markers? Because this helps me tremendously in a couple of ways. You do not have to do this, or you could do this with your colored pencils. I am putting down one layer of marker to, first of all, map out all the colors that I need to use. So I'm using this as a map to figure out where all my colors are going to go. And here, you'll be able to see, I originally started coloring these leaves with a navy, and then I changed my mind, which is no big deal because it's just my base color. So I did them with the blue, and I was like, meh, I don't really like it. And then I brought out my color wheel so I could figure out what colors I was going to do my flowers in. And then, like, this is something that's just, like, if you don't have a color wheel, it's tremendously helpful. I drew my own. You can too. It's just good to be able to see what colors will go together. So after looking at my color wheel, I changed my mind. I decided that I was going to do the berries in the blue, and then I was going to use teal, a darker teal, for the leaves to kind of tie in my background. Maybe I would have liked it better if I would have done navy. I don't know, but it is what it is. So here, I'm just going to go right over top of that navy with the teal color, and because Copics are transparent, it will still tint the marker to read as a teal, and we'll be fine. These are the colors that I chose for my florals, and I'm basically just going in and kind of outlining the flowers that are there. This is not necessary. I did it because I was worried you were going to be able to see like where they were glued down, but you really couldn't, so you could totally skip that step. Now, I have 3 color blends for all of my colored pencils. These are the colors that you just saw in the, you know, with the markers. So each color family has 3 colors, and then here is how I like to do it. So the mapping helps me with a base color, first of all, so I don't have to spend as much time with my colored pencils. So there's 2 ways I do it. This first one is 1 layer of the lightest color, then the medium, then the dark, then the medium, then the light. that lightest color needs to be the last thing that you apply, because it will be what blends everything together. If you going over it with your lightest color takes away too much of your shadows, then you can go back in with your darkest color and build that up. But the lightest color is going to be what blends all of them together. Alternatively, you can blend with a white colored pencil. That's just going to make your colors a little less vibrant. They're just going to look a little more desaturated, which is a super cool technique, and I have used that before, but that's not what I did here today. So if you find that you're having a little bit of trouble with colored pencils and you makes your hand hurt, back your hand up on your pencil, it'll force you to have a looser grip. Let's talk about these ones over here in the margins. So you're probably going to notice that those leaves or flower petals or whatever are not as predominant because it has a dark color underneath it. So what I did here is I just neutralized the underneath. So I put down a layer of white to kind of act as a barrier between my green colored pencil and the Distress ink in the background. And then that will still, because I have that white underneath it, it will allow me to have, it's not exactly the same color as the rest of the leaves, but it is a much, much closer green so that they look like they're sitting on top of that margin instead of, like being cut through the middle of the margin. So that's another reason why I didn't do any masking, because I knew I was going to be using colored pencils. They're opaque and you wouldn't be able to tell, especially once you use that white. If you don't have a white colored pencil, you could use a very light color. Like I could have used a much lighter green or a very light gray. Will also, kind of neutralize that background for you to make them brighter. For the berries, that was the only thing I colored blue. Here I'm just showing you want to make sure, especially for specific areas like what I'm about to do here, which is put in the branches for the berries, that your pencils have a good point on them. It gets worn down as you're coloring, and so sometimes you do need to stop and sharpen them up to make sure that you can get into all those little nooks and crannies. Or if you're doing any sort of outline work like I was there, your pencil needs to be super sharp for that to not kind of be too wide, for it to stay delicate. So the next reason that I use the Copic markers, it's not such a big deal with the leaves because the leaves are typically pretty separated, but one of my biggest challenges with using no line coloring is that everything gets super blobby. Okay, like I lose my lines, I lose my detail, and it doesn't look the way that I want it to look. So I have found if I go in kind of layer by layer, so here I'm going in with my Copic marker, I'm doing my mapping, but I'm doing the leaves, the petals that are the furthest into the back. And that's all I'm doing. So this helps me maintain the integrity of the shape of the flower. So that way it doesn't get like one big blob. I don't lose all of the lines. So it makes it so that like it kind of breaks it down piece by piece so that I can make sure at the end of the day all of my petals are accounted for and it looks the way that the stamp was intended. Now, with that said, this is also somewhere that you can take some creative liberties. Like that's the benefit, one of the benefits of no line coloring. So for me here, these flowers are all drawn as poinsettias, which means the original artist put, especially in the top layer of this particular flower, put like the little veins in that you typically see in a poinsettia. Because I'm doing no line coloring, I can completely eradicate those lines. So this is the base layer. All done. And now once that is done, I can go back in with my marker again and map out the next round of petals and still, again, maintain their shape, maintain their separation. And the other, let's finish talking about the last point before we move on to the next one. So I can change it and I can make it my own. I can get rid of those veins and I can make it look less like a poinsettia. The next tip that I have for you for no line coloring is you have to leave some separation between them. So you can see when I'm coloring my top petal, I am adding the shadows. You know, you want to add the shadows where it meets the base of the flower. That's where it's going to be darkest. But I'm concentrating them on the center. I'm leaving the edges of my petal light. And the reason that I'm doing that is because the petals that are underneath, their edges are dark. So I need that contrast, or my petals are going to get lost. So I'm adding the darkest parts kind of like to the left, right, and up the center. But I am leaving a margin of the lightest color around the edges and into the center, obviously, because the whole petal isn't dark in the middle. But the ones that are on the edges are the most important ones, because if you don't have them, then you don't have separated petals. So now that's the whole purple one colored. For the centers, I chose just some oranges. I did the centers pretty similarly to the way that they were drawn. They, had like a bunch of little, basically circles. And so I tried to keep the integrity of that with the oranges. And then I'm going to move on to the pink. The pink flower in this one it actually has 3 layers. So I will do what I did with the purple flower again. I'm going to keep them separate. So I'm going to start with the petals that are furthest into the back. I'm going to color those in. I will put in my colored pencil detail, and then once that's finished, I will move on to the next layer, each time maintaining a lighter edge on the next consecutive layer, so that we don't lose that separation, because that's where the blobbiness comes in from. And it's one of the things that, like I said, I know I personally in the past have struggled with when I've tried to do no line coloring and I don't have that black outline to kind of save me and maintain the image as I stamped it down. Real talk, the pinks that I picked, I don't mind them, but they were not similar. They weren't as similar as I thought they were going to be. So the shading, like the gradient, isn't as smooth. But I really wanted to use the neon pink. I thought that it was a really pretty color and it matched my RV04 pretty well. And so I thought that it would be kind of fun to use. So that's the tips I have about that. So you want to map your colors. You can either do this with your lightest colored pencil or with a Copic marker, because they work fine. You can't put Copics over water or over pencils, but you can put pencils over Copics. You want to make sure that you're maintaining your edges to keep that kind of separation. Was there anything else? I don't think so. We'll see if anything else comes up. So story, like we're, 20 minutes into this video now. So one of the things that I found super interesting, I told you they're having this sale, and this is just like how my perspective has changed. So I got into card making, what has it been? Like 13 years ago now, maybe a little 14 years ago. I haven't been on YouTube that long, but that's how long ago I started card making, and I was always crafty before that. But as a customer, I loved retirement sales because it was like a way to get more product discounted. Because if you guys have followed my channel for any amount of time, you know that I used to only shop twice a year. So I would shop in the fall and I would shop in the spring. And in between, I would save up my pennies for those purchases. And honestly, because that's when the Hero Arts catalogs came out. And back then, that's, pretty much all I used. I've branched out considerably since then. But so, I would love the retirement sales because then I could get in there and I could get things that I had been like oogling over for quite some time at a discounted price, which, when you're saving your pennies, it counts quite a bit, which is why I always tell you guys about the sales. Here is something that is interesting as a creator. Okay, so obviously this is my full-time job now. This is how I pay my bills. This is what keeps my electricity on. Me making these cards and the affiliate sales that I get from you guys purchasing through my links, which I always appreciate your support. You guys are amazing. And even if you're not you know, obviously it's not all about the sales. Even if you're not purchasing, I appreciate that you stop by and you leave comments, and, you know, we have this relationship and you contribute to my life as I hope that I contribute to yours. But as a creator, so when they announced a retirement sale, I was like, okay, like, let me get in here and see, because it also means that I have to pull any of that product from my own personal collection because I can no longer use it in videos. Why is that? Because people get so enraged when you make a card with a set that's no longer available. It's kind of like advertising something that they literally cannot purchase. Let's talk about this. So here, I did just want to show you with this one petal how you would do it with just a colored pencil. So you can see I filled my petal in with my lightest color. Then I'm going in, adding my shading with my dark color and then my mid-tone, and then I'm going to go back over it with the lightest color to blend everything together. It does look slightly different than the one that has the Copic marker as the base, but it's something that's totally achievable. Still a really, you know, beautiful no line coloring look. You can see the two of them. They're incredibly similar. And then I went ahead and colored all the rest of them the same way that I had before, and then fussy cut them out. So anyway, the reason that one of the reasons is because people get so mad when something is not available, which I totally understand. The other reason is the affiliate sales. Like, this is just reality of, you know, content creating versus being a consumer, which, I mean, I still am, but that's not my main. I hope you get what I'm saying. Anyway, I cannot, I can't sell it, basically, is what it comes down to. So while there's sets that I love, like one of them is the Helping Hands one from My Favorite Things. It's like the one that we talked about. It just came out. And I understand these companies cannot, like, they have a warehouse that they pay for. They have an overhead that they have to pay. So they can't keep things that aren't selling. But that stamp set literally just came out with their fall collection. Like, maybe 6 months ago, maybe. But it's the one that says, I love you, a bushel and a peck. We talked about it. It's got like a little truck and an apple tree. It's adorable. They're retiring it. It must not have sold well. That would be the only thing that I could imagine why they'd be getting rid of it so quickly. And I bought that at the same time I bought these poinsettias. And so when I went through the list and I saw that they were on here, I was like, I have not even used them yet in a video. And today's my day. So I don't know if they're in stock or they aren't. By the time this video is going up, because like I said, my intention was to put this video up yesterday. I had a completely different video that was supposed to go up today. That one got put on the back burner and then will be up tomorrow. Tomorrow. I think it'll be up tomorrow. But nonetheless, I was like, if I don't put this in here, I'm literally never gonna be able to use it in a video. So like that one, that Helping Hands one, it's got a cute little truck in it and some fuzzy little animals. Like that one I'll probably keep because my son is still of the age where he likes to make cards and color things, and the pickup truck is adorable. I'll link that video at the end of this one. So that way, you know, if you're interested in seeing that you can, and it's easy to find. So here I've adhered all of my flowers down flat. I am using, this is the extra wide foam tape from Picket Fence, but your girl is super sticky, like so sticky. So I put this liquid adhesive, which you guys actually taught me, thank you so much, on the back of it to give me some more wiggle room. And I left this part in just to show you that it actually does work. So I go to put it down one time and pick it back up. I go to put it down 2 times and pick it back up. So like that, if I had not had the liquid adhesive on the back of it, there's no way I would be able to pick this back up at all. So 3rd time's a charm. I finally get it lined up and push it down. Again, I don't know what, this is giving me sea creature vibes, but anywho. So I wanted to do some gold dots, and you saw me use the gold pen, but I don't know what's going on with my gold pen. It just wasn't as gold as it normally is. I may need to get a new one. But when I did the dots, they were very pale, and I didn't like it. So I decided that I was going to use, I couldn't find they're called hero pearls. I couldn't find my gold pearls. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to use this wax in the back of my paintbrush, and it worked brilliantly. They're not like perfectly domed dots. I don't want to mislead you into thinking that, but they are dimensional. They are super shiny, and they definitely get the job done. And then I just wiped off the end of my paintbrush with a baby wipe, and it was totally fine. For the sentiment, I am just doing a white heat embossed sentiment on, this is nautical cardstock from Hero Arts, and then I trim them out into labels. So basically, my question for you is, does it even affect you if a company, I don't think it does. Why would it? Like, if a company just retires a set, like maybe it was on your wish list, and that might be disappointing that, like, if you don't have the funds right now, because like I said, I totally get that. I saved up my pennies for the time that which I could make purchases. Like, then maybe you would miss out on it, I guess, in maybe that way. But really, as a customer, I would imagine that the retirement sales are really only beneficial. But if you have a different viewpoint, I would love for you to share it with me, because I didn't realize how much my viewpoint would change once I started, doing this for a living versus just doing this as my hobby. Once I got my sentiments on here, I realized that I had some blank areas that needed some little gold dots that I needed to fill in. So I just went back in and did that to kind of balance out the design. And then, of course, I added some clear shimmer to all of the flowers. You can add this overcolored pencil. Just know that it takes just a smidge longer to dry because that wax resists the moisture. So don't be like playing around with it right away. It doesn't dry like it does on regular cardstock because that wax provides a barrier. And then I just added some fun little dots with a white gel pen, again, just to make them look a little less poinsettia-ish. But that's it. That is the whole card. So thank you guys for joining me. And I hope you head over and check out the sale. They really do. I mean, I can't believe how much stuff they're just retiring. Not to mention the products that are still 35% off. That sale does end today, though, just to be clear. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.